This feels pretty unnatural to do this in an SUV, but the balance in this thing is just brilliant. Okay, we've got ourselves a bit of a hairpin right here. Some nice angle, look at that. It's a big luxury rally car, that's what this is. This is the Lamborghini Urus SE, and it's the latest version of Lamborghini's long-serving super SUV. And this one is more important than ever because Lamborghini have some stiff competition.
Since it launched, rivals have begun to spring up everywhere, offering more luxury, more power, more speed, and in some cases, more ability.
But the empire that started it all is striking back. And this time, they're using new technology. Yeah, this one is a hybrid.
But don't be fooled. In this case, the hybrid technology isn't here to save the planet. It's here to destroy its rivals with increased power, performance, and, shock of all shocks, the thing can even drift. Properly. In fact, it goes sideways better than some sports cars. So the new Urus now has a fun factor you simply don't get in previous models or in many of its rivals.
So, the Urus SE, or the Urus SE, as the Italians call it, looks quite familiar, doesn't it? Until, of course, you get up close. And that's when you realize there are some very big changes, including under here. Under the bonnet is a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 that by itself makes 620 PS. That's more than some supercars. But it's not alone. Oh no, you see, because connected to it is a 25.9 kilowatt-hour battery pack that drives an electric motor with an additional 192 PS. Total system output is 800 PS and 950 Newton meters of torque. Lamborghini are back in the game.
Should the competition be worried? Well, the SE delivers 93 PS more than an Aston Martin DBX and 75 PS more than a Ferrari Purosangue. And that's exactly the kind of one-upmanship that Ferruccio himself would approve of. But how do the numbers translate in terms of raw performance?
Performance, as you'd expect, is on point. It will do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.4 seconds. 0 to 125 miles an hour in 11.2, and flat out, it's going to hit 194 miles an hour. It is such a quick car. I mean, it had to be. It's got 134 PS more than a Urus Performante. Admittedly, the Performante is about a tenth quicker to 62, but once this thing gets up and running and stretches its legs, it is off. It's 4/10 quicker to 125 than the Performante.
Flat out, it's faster than just about everything in its class, cheekily beating both the DBX 707 and the Ferrari Purosangue's top speeds by 1 mile per hour. Very convenient and achieved not without great difficulty, I'm sure. But the bottom line is that it delivers.
We've also got to ask ourselves whether the new Urus delivers in the design department as well. And I have to say, I quite like it. It keeps what we all loved about the Urus, but introduces some subtle upgrades. Have a closer look at this floating bonnet design and this new front bumper, which make it quite reminiscent of the V12 flagship. It's almost like a Revuelto that's been down the gym and indulged in one too many performance-enhancing supplements. It's also got new headlights. These are matrix LEDs, as you might expect. And check out this clever detail, these new DRL signatures. That resembles the tail on the Lamborghini Bull, which is a very clever piece of design. We've also got better cooling at the front. These intakes allow 15% better engine cooling and 30% better airflow to the brakes.
In profile, not much has changed. You get new 23-inch Galanthus rims, paired as standard with new Pirelli P0 tyres, although smaller 21s and 22s are also available. And as ever, there's plenty of scope to customize your Urus, including 2 new colours. This Arancio Egon Orange and a Blanco Sapphirius, aka White. Although my favourite is the wonderfully named Blue Uranus, which made its debut on the Cyan.
The back end of the Urus SE has some changes as well. We've got some improved rear spoilers. There's one here and one up top. And these work in conjunction with this massive new lower diffuser to improve rear downforce by 35%. Also note this low-level license plate holder and some new light designs on either side. That's cool, but not as cool as this little detail. The boot lid is actually protruding slightly. That is designed to look like the front end of a Lamborghini Gallardo, and it kind of does. It's almost like a Lamborghini Gallardo is just sort of crawling out and just blue Uranus, by the way. It's a fantastic color. I think a lot better than this Arancio Egon. Anyway, do you want to hear how it sounds? Sounds good, doesn't it? Not bad for a hybrid anyway. So inside there are some upgrades as you might expect, but most of those are confined to the infotainment system. You now get a larger 12.3-inch infotainment display with graphics that are now in line with what you get on the Lamborghini Revuelto. It's nice and snappy as well, fairly responsive, and the functionality is all there. You get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. The driver display has also been upgraded. That too is a 12.3-inch display. Again, much more high resolution than before, with some new graphics, including a new telemetry display, which shows you how fast you're doing lap times. Plus some information related directly to the hybrid system, including your remaining battery state of charge.
In the center console, you'll find the usual Lambo trappings. The fighter jet style power switch, which starts the car silently until you engage sport mode, which can be done using the Tamburo selector unit, which we should probably try out.
Now, ordinarily, because this is a Lambo, I just chuck it into Corsa and send the thing. But because this is a hybrid, there are some new modes to play with. Obviously, you got your three main modes, Strada, Sport, and Corsa, plus your off-road modes, but you've also got a switch down here for deploying a number of different electrical strategies, including hybrid, performance, and recharge. We're going to start things off by going into hybrid because that is the most efficient. Now, in this mode, this car can apparently get 135 miles per gallon while you've got energy in the battery pack. Once the energy is depleted and you're at a low state of charge, then it gets closer to around 22 miles per gallon, which isn't bad because that is pretty much what the current car happens to get.
In the recharge setting, the V8 charges the battery up to a maximum of 80%, although that will burn quite a lot of fuel. You're better off plugging it in at home or at work via the 7 kilowatt charger to get the best possible efficiency. And speaking of efficiency,
this car also has an EV mode. So if you pull this switch, suddenly you've got yourself a big Nissan Leaf. Like quite literally, it's even got a very similar battery capacity. The engine shuts down, the electric motor takes over, and everything is nice, quiet, and calm. When you're in this mode, you get a range of up to 30 miles and you can drive at speeds of up to 80 miles per hour. And that's actually not bad, is it? Especially when you consider that the average commute in the UK is what, 20 miles a day? So effectively, you can run this car in EV mode for the majority of your normal trips. Admittedly, you've got to be quite careful with the accelerator. If you push it too hard, then you'll wake up the V8. What's also interesting is that it doesn't really feel or sound like a normal EV. There's actually a subtle amount of noise that Lamborghini have engineered into the car that plays back through speakers, both to alert people that you're driving near to, and also to make you feel more connected to the driving experience. And because the electric motor isn't connected directly to the wheels, it's connected to a quite stiffly mounted torque converter, you actually feel a little bit of vibration through the steering wheel and through your bum. You feel quite connected even when it's driving in EV mode.
but this is a Lambo, and I'm sure none of you really care how far it goes in EV mode. What you're more likely to care about is how well it does skids in a supermarket car park.
Right, let's see how it fares. Power on, back end steps out, bit of weight transfer going on, and it's getting very sideways. Yes, that is pretty good. Now we'll try a donut, get it spinning. Oh yes.
This kind of hooligan behavior would be impossible in the Performante or any other previous version of the Urus, but here it's easy.
Angle all day long in an SUV, in a family car.
The car has a new multi-plate clutch in the center that can send the majority of power to the rear axle, with a new electronic limited slip differential allowing easy power slides. The immediate torque of the electric motor, meanwhile, makes it all the more responsive.
This feels pretty unnatural to do this in an SUV, but the balance in this thing is just brilliant. It's like a giant caterum, look at that.
Of course, you might say this kind of thing is totally pointless, but it might come in handy for situations where you need a car with a tight turning circle.
In most of these cars, they tend just to sort of understeer, but in this, the back end is being kicked out by the electric motor, and you can drift it for days. That's quite something.
The other benefit of the Urus SE's newfound athleticism is that you can do this kind of thing on almost any terrain. Find yourself lost in a field or on a rally circuit, and you can have yourself an absolute blast.
Normally in a performance SUV, the limiting factor is weight, but now we've got a bit of loose surface underneath us, we can really start to play with the chassis and see what it's like on the limit. Okay, we've got ourselves a bit of a hairpin right here. Some nice angle, look at that. It's a big luxury rally car, that's what this is. Excellent traction, even in these slippery conditions. And actually the brakes are really reassuring as well. The nose gets tucked in, and that gives you the confidence to get on the accelerator and just slide it on the exit of corners. You can definitely get a sense of the electric motor helping to kick the back end out to make the car a little bit more playful, a bit more agile, especially in these low speed corners. Look at that. Normally, a performance SUV is going to be a bit unwilling to kick the back end like that, but this is actually taking it in its stride, no problem whatsoever. When you're driving on normal roads, keeping things neat and tidy, you still get a really good sense of how the hybrid system really helps this car. I'll put it into perspective for you. In the Urus S without the hybrid system, at 1,000 RPM, you're only getting 350 Newton meters. In this car, with the hybrid stuff, at 1,000 RPM, you're getting 800 Newton meters. This car feels strong pretty much at any speed. The ride isn't exceptional. I mean, it's never gonna be. It's a high riding SUV. It's also extremely heavy at 2.5 tons, so you do have to drive this car while keeping that in mind. But unsurprisingly, it's also really competent. It's got 48-volt active anti-roll stabilization, which keeps it nice and flat in the corners. It's got rear wheel steering, so the front end goes exactly where you expect it to. And because it's still got that big 4-litre twin-turbo V8, it sounds good. This is a fun car to drive.
Of course, all of this doesn't come cheap. The base Urus S without the hybrid parts will set you back £188,000. The madder, faster, more slidey Urus SE is set to cost £208,000. Pricey, but on the bright side, it's the same cost as a DBX 707 and considerably less expensive than a Ferrari Purosangue. And being more powerful than both, I guess you could say it's good value for money. Especially true when you consider the fact it does everything the previous version did, just better. It's a Urus, but this time with a wild side and a calm, considerate electrified side and everything in between.
How do we summarize the Urus SE? I'm not gonna lie, I had my doubts about whether they could come back and keep pace with their rivals, but they've done more than that. This car looks fantastic, sounds fantastic, is fast, and it gives you bragging rights because it's got more power than anything else in the class. But more importantly than ever, it's also a lot of fun. This is a proper Lamborghini.